And how we doing, everybody? Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Fenway Faithful. And man, oh man, we got a nicely timed article to chew into right at the start of the show. We were going to talk about Alex Bregman to kick things off, but we can't talk about Alex Bregman to kick things off. We're going to go over some weird rumors. And, well, they were weird, but now it looks like they're maybe becoming a little bit true, right? And you might be wondering, well, Robbie, what are you talking about? You know, what's the dealio? What do you mean weird rumors? Well, just the other night, we had this from Cardinals Live. And I've even mentioned on some streams over the last couple of weeks that I was told Nolan Arenado would see the Red Sox as a destination. I don't remember what streams I mentioned that on. I'd have to go dig for it. But I have mentioned it, right? Listen, I'm not going to be one that's going to break news. Maybe one day I will, but I don't know. It's not really my place to go put some stuff out there. But I was told from someone that I trust very much. I will never put anything out there unless I trust it. Never. I'm never going to be, someone like MLB Scoops or whatever, these random Twitter accounts that just like to throw stuff out there trying to get clicks. I'm not like that. I will put something out there if I get something from someone that I trust very much. And I was told about 2.5 weeks ago that Nolan Arenado would very much like to come to the Red Sox. And, I was like, okay, all right. I could see that. And I could see the Red Sox having interest in Nolan Arenado. And you always, and people ask me, Robbie, why do you have a crush on Nolan Arenado? Do you have, why do you want him so much? Well, listen, I only talk about realistic possibilities, right? Sometimes maybe I dabble into some, dreams and whatnot, some high hopes, sure. But for the most part, I like to talk about realistic ideas as much as possible. And when it comes to Nolan Arenado, that's one that I've seen, right? Well, going into the offseason, we were told Arenado would be on the trade block. And I thought, I had seen some people mention the idea. I was like, okay, I could see it. Yeah, maybe the bat's been a little down over the last couple of years, or it's, trending that way. But the defense would be better at third base. But, than I thought early on in the offseason. Well, Rafael Devers, what happens there? I know the defense, the numbers haven't been all that great. However, we actually just had Alex Cora on the show just a couple of days ago, and we had a great conversation, an amazing moment for me personally. Never would have thought I'd be talking to the manager of the Boston Red Sox. That's crazy to me still. I still can't believe it. But he had said something pretty interesting. Right? And I know we're only looking at this from one point of view right now, right? We'll dive more into this in just a second. But if you go back to that interview I had with Alex Cora, I brought up what is his philosophy on a position change? If for those of you that watched it, right? I said I don't want to specifically ask about Rafael Devers. Tell me what you think about position changes for guys that have been at a spot for a while. He was very quick to say to me when I was giving examples where I was like, okay, what do you think of position changes of a guy moving from third to first or short to second or center to left? And he said to me, or right field to first base, right? He brought up Bryce Harper, how he did that, kind of just on the fly. That told me, because he also praised Rafi with his defense at third base, right? He said, yeah, the numbers are the numbers, but there are some good things, right? When I put 2 and 2 together, man, kind of makes me think the Red Sox are at least open to the idea of Rafi at first base. And of course, people are they're gonna jump all over the idea. No, that's not a good idea. Listen, Kevin Youkilis did it and he was completely fine. I'm not saying it's the best idea, but do I think it's a disaster of an idea? I don't think that's very fair to say about Rafael Devers, right? Yes, he's a third baseman, of course. there's a lot of similarities between the positions. Sure, first base has its, nuances, right? Has its little things. But I don't think it's very fair to say, oh, no, Rafi can't play first base. Why can't he? Why can't he handle the cutoff? Why can't he handle the pickoff opportunities? Why? I don't think that's very fair about him. I think he could do it. Why couldn't he? I don't know. I just think that's a little, I don't like when people say stuff like that, because it's like, no, you're so dismissive over the idea. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like he could probably do it, to be honest. I think that's kind of not an insult towards the guy, but it's like, I don't know. If someone told me I couldn't do something, I'd be like, well, who the heck are you? I'll show you. I'll do it. Right? Anyway, but getting to the point here, I was told, again, over a couple of weeks ago, the Red Sox are a preferred destination for Nolan Arenado. We saw Cardinals Live mention this the other night, and people were getting on to him about it, right? And if you go back, if you look at the history of Cardinals Live, there's been some things he's kind of hit on over the last several years, right? He's been, I don't know, who knows at the end of the day, but, seems to have his finger on the pulse a little bit. And he mentioned this the other night. Now, let's dive into this article a little bit. This just got posted as I was going live, right? So, it says here, while it remains unclear whether or not the Red Sox are strongly interested in acquiring Cardinals third baseman Nolan Arenado, if they do mount a pursuit of the eight-time All-Star, he won't stand in the way. Boston is a preferred destination, if not the preferred destination. I will read you the text that I got, ladies and gentlemen. This is the text that I got. Arenado wants to go to Boston. This is from the highest of sources. That's the text I got. Right? That's what I got back on December 19th at 10 o'clock in the morning. All right? That's what I got. I had that piece of information 2.5 weeks ago. But, it's not really my place to put stuff out there. I have mentioned it on shows, but I'm not going to tweet it out. Going more into the article. The 33-year-old has already invoked that clause to control his future once blocking a trade to Houston. If the Red Sox and Cardinals were to match up on value, there would be no hesitation on Arenado's end to accept the deal. It kind of goes into, right, the contract. John Mozeliak has made it clear Arenado is widely available. They're looking to cut some payroll. Says here, Arenado is an imperfect fit for the Red Sox, who have star third baseman Rafael Devers entrenched at the position. And so far, this offseason, team officials have adamantly stated that Devers remains the club's third baseman for the foreseeable future. Even Alex Cora just told me this the other night, right? If they were to end up doing it, the first person to know about it would be Craig, then Alex, then they would talk to Rafi, right? It says here, quietly, though, there's been a desire all winter to pursue potential infield changes as the Red Sox have explored the markets for both Arenado and Alex Bregman. While Bregman would likely shift to second base should a Red Sox match materialize, Arenado, a 10-time Gold Glover at third base, would almost certainly not move off the position. That means the Red Sox maybe move Rafael Devers to first base to replace the incumbent Triston Casas. Now, that's a completely different conversation. We'll talk about that in just a second. I disagree. I disagree with the imperfect fit part here. I disagree with it. What it means, I think, is you have to make moves to make it work. I think, though, because the one thing you see some people talk about when it comes to Alex Bregman, I would love Alex Bregman. Absolutely. He would be my first choice, to be completely honest, right? I would like Nolan Arenado, but I would like Alex Bregman even more. You might be asking me, Robbie, why do you want Nolan Arenado? The bat is regressing. I keep seeing that same talking point over and over again. Arenado would fit fine at Fenway Park. Mike Lowell was a disaster in 2005. I still remember 2005. I still remember it. People were like, Mike Lowell, it's great we got Josh Beckett, but Mike Lowell, this guy's a bum. Why are we getting this guy? I still remember those comments in the forums, the Red Sox forums at the time, right? Twitter was not a thing. I still remember reading those things about Mike Lowell. Like, oh, really? We got this guy? We're probably just going to DFA Mike Lowell. Why the heck do we want this guy, right? ended up being fine. It ended up being a pretty solid player for the Red Sox. So I think Arenado would be fine. I would like Alex Bregman because he has the versatility. He can play second base, third base. Now, one thing that people keep bringing up is Christian Campbell, Vaughn Grissom, right? If Bregman were to come to Boston, he would play second base. But then you got to wonder, what do you do with Grissom or KC at that point? Because those guys, right now at least, second base is the spot for those guys. Bregman could also play third base. Here's my thinking behind Bregman. I feel like, yes, they would bring him in to play second base, but I wonder if a conversation came up at one point if Bregman were to move to third, right? Or not move, but to play third over Rafi. And then that's where Triston Casas comes into play, right? Triston Casas. Now, this is another thing they had talked about here. Despite Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow denying that the club was shopping Casas earlier this week, there remains a belief in the industry that the Red Sox remain open to trading Casas potentially for young pitching to facilitate other roster maneuvering. The Red Sox have discussed Casas with the Mariners and other clubs this winter, but have not lined up on a deal. Well, what do you know? Cardinals Live just put this yesterday. Boston is actively shopping Casas, and their goal is to trade him before trading for Arenado. Do you know how many people ragged on this guy? Like the quote. Let's take a look at the quotes, shall we? Let's take a look at the quotey quotes. Oh, let's take a look here. View quotes. What do we got? Absolute fake engagement farming at its finest. These accounts just be making bleep up without looking into any of it. Mick's burner account. Absolutely not. Beyond average Mick burner spotted. This bozo has no clue what's going on. The world of Cardinals Live never made a Twitter account. Okay, Cardinals Live. No, we're not. What did this one say? These are so funny as you're reading them. They're so funny. Oh boy, I can't wait for this to be wrong. Brady? I'm sorry. That did not happen, my friend. Scranton Red Sox, you're full of bleep. Oh no. Source, the voices. Triston Casas enjoyer, me when I lie. It's always funny to look back on that stuff. Listen, I've heard a couple of things about Triston Casas this offseason. I've heard a couple of things. I've heard there have been, mentions of it. I haven't really gotten a whole lot on the idea. But I've heard a couple of things. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I've heard a few things, right? Nothing imminent or nothing at all like saying that there's going to be anything close. But I've been told that, there is activity out there. Again, I'm not going to dive into any of it, but when I was seeing this from Cardinals Live and the Triston Casas thing, I'm like, well, I've heard the same stuff, right? And there's been other people out there that have heard the same stuff. So now when it comes to Triston Casas, right, this is where people are going to get real grumpy. They're going to get really grumpy about this one, ladies and gentlemen. Now, here's the thing with Triston Casas, right? I like Triston Casas. I think the bat is so good, right? I think when healthy, I want to see a full season out of Triston Casas. I really do. I would love to see what he can do over 150 games, right? However, the problem with Casas is he has not been able to stay on the field, right? That has been an issue, right? He missed a lot of time this past year. Taking a look at Casas here, and I've seen some people out there as well. I'm not going to name any names, but I've seen people say, "Oh, if we get rid of Casas and we get Arenado, our team is worse." Well, you know me, I'm a numbers guy. Casas is projected for a 2.5 F/WAR for this coming year. Arenado is projected for a 3. I honestly think if you put Arenado at Fenway Park, I think you would actually see a better number there, right? They're projecting a bit better on the slugging. average right around, 250, 260 on base, a little lower. They expect the power to go up a little bit. I actually wonder if you could see maybe a bit better on these numbers, right? And again with Casas, these numbers, honestly, I think you could end up seeing these kind of numbers with Casas. I think these are fair projections. With Arenado, you are going to be getting very good defense, and that is something the Red Sox need. Yes, I like the upside of the bat of Triston Casas, but listen, here's the thing with me, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing with me. I'm going to be very honest with all of you. I don't have any emotional connection to any players. I just don't. I've been through so much. I'm not going to sit here and sound like I'm Gandalf the freaking Gray, but I've been through a lot of years of Red Sox baseball. I've seen all the drama going back over the last 20, 25 years. Theo Epstein in a freaking gorilla suit. Bobby Valentine riding on a bike into the sunset after a disastrous season. Chicken and beer. I've seen all the drama. I feel I've seen the highs. I've seen the lows. I mean, to me, I don't know. I've just been through Manny Ramirez, the security guard, right? The trade rumors with Manny Ramirez. He was going to be a New York Met at one point. I've seen so much over the years. To me, as a Red Sox fan, you have to remember that anything can happen at any time. It could end up upsetting you, or it could end up making you the happiest man on the planet, right? Maybe somewhere in the middle as well, too. To me, if Casas ended up getting moved, I'd be a little bummed out because a part of me really wants to see the upside. I would love to see what he can do over a full season. I really would. However, when I look at the Red Sox from last year, where were they so bad? The infield. The infield defense was a disaster. Now, if you move Rafi over to first base, I would expect you're going to take a bit of a hit, a little bit defensively. But if you're bringing in the defense of Nolan Arenado, you're making up for that lack of defense from Rafi, and then some. Your infield is so much better at that point. And especially if Trevor Story is healthy for a full season. I know that's a big if. But if you have Arenado and Trevor Story on the left side of the infield, are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. Nothing's getting by those guys. That's insane. What a defense that would be on the left side. I'm just saying. Again, I would like to keep Casas on his bat, but if I'm looking at where do the Red Sox need to improve the most, they need to get their defense better in the infield. It's just a fact, right? Facts are loud, but numbers are louder. That's what I'm saying. And, if you're looking at the Red Sox lineup, let's say you take out Casas here. Let's say you move him. Listen, with Arenado, again, if you're looking at the projections with Arenado, all right, Triston Casas is projected for 28 home runs. Arenado's projected for 23 as of right now. Put him at Fenway Park, probably plays a good amount of wall ball there, right? But maybe you see, anywhere from 23 to 27 home runs. I think that's possible, right? Maybe adjust the swing a little bit, get a bit more of that launch angle there, and maybe you could end up seeing, a 25 home run season for Arenado. I think you would be getting a decrease in the offense, but you have to remember, it's not always about the offense. It's not. You can't just be looking at the slash line all the time. You have to remember, run prevention is just as important in these front offices than the slash line. Yeah. Oh, who wouldn't want 30 home runs in the lineup? But you know what I also want? I want a guy that's going to prevent some balls getting through the infield, because that's going to lead to a decrease in runs allowed. There's runs scored and there's runs allowed. Right? I know people are still going to disagree with me. I'm never, there's people that you're just never going to convince, and I get that. But again, I'm not saying Arenado is necessarily better than Casas. I think Casas is someone I'd be very sad to lose. But if I'm looking at the biggest area of need, then yeah, I mean, Arenado makes a lot of sense. Or Alex Bregman, whatever it may be. I mean, Alex Bregman even more so. If you traded Casas and and Bregman ended up being your third baseman. I know he's been talked about as a second baseman, but still, you're adding, offense here. If you can get a pretty decent offensive season out of him, no, you're not going to make up for Casas. You just over a full season. And that's another thing. We got to see Casas over a full season here. I really want to see that. But last year we didn't get that. All right. With Arenado, the one thing you can count on with Arenado is availability. This is a guy that's always going to be there. He's going to play every day. Right? So I don't know. I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, this is the worst move you could ever make. You're going to trade Casas and replace him with Arenado. Well, I mean, if you're looking at the projections, you're looking at a 3 wins above replacement with Arenado, and you're looking at around a 2.5 for Triston Casas. Again, it's not all about the slash line. The defense comes into play as well. But again, I would like to keep Casas if it was possible. I think there's a way where, if you were to ask me, I'd rather have Arenado at third base, Triston Casas at first base, Rafi at DH. That would be my main preference. But now let's get into the fact here. Well, Robbie, why don't they just trade Sasaki Yoshida? I mean, that's the easy thing to do. That's the most obvious route. I agree. But from a front office, from a fan point of view, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But from a front office point of view, is it obvious? I don't know. I mean, all these things that we talk about with Yoshida, he's pretty much a DH at this point, but he's not David Ortiz by any means. He lacks power as a designated hitter. DH, usually you want like a Brent Rooker. That's what right now, modern day. I mean, that's what you want. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani, of course, right? But whatever. He's an alien, like a guy that's more, just a hitter. Brent Rooker is a DH, right? That's a guy that's going to give you 35, 40 home runs per year. That offense makes up the difference, for not playing the field. Sasaki Yoshida, sure, he's a good hitter, but it's not like enough as a DH, right? This would be a very good slash line if he also gave you good defense. But then he's like a solid all-around player, but he doesn't give you the defense. So that's where the Red Sox, they're, I think, in a bit of a bind with him because he's also owed a lot of money. He's owed over $50 million over the next few years. He's a DH. He doesn't give you defense. I mean, he's not going to give you really a lot of speed as well. I mean, he's been injury prone here over the last year. In my opinion, I think it's going to be pretty hard to move him. I mean, yes, it sounds obvious in our head, but what team is going to want him at this point? I think there's only a few teams that really make sense. Maybe even one team that makes the most sense to me would be the Giants, right? The D-backs, they already brought in Josh Naylor to be their first baseman. I feel like they already have some guys there like Pavin Smith. I thought the Rangers at one point could be an option, but then they brought in Jock Peterson, right? But Jock Peterson is more of a DH, right? Yoshida is like, as a DH, he's one of like the last options, in my opinion, you would want. I think the Red Sox are going to have a hard time moving him. I think the best thing to do would just be to keep him in that lineup. I know, I don't mean as like, I don't think that would be the best thing to do from a winning team point of view. But at this point, how are you going to move him? I just don't see it. I don't see him getting moved. Casas, though. Triston Casas has value. Like, teams see him and they're like, oh, okay, he's young, power upside, and he's cheap. That's a big difference also right there, is that he's making under $1 million. Teams would love that. Teams would love that. Nick Uber, what are you saying here? Giving up someone who can be great for years for a guy who might bounce back for a season or two is wild. Years of team control, budding star versus washed up star. I wouldn't say, Nick, I don't think he's a washed up star. I think Arenado, if you take a look at what Arenado did this past year, of course, not putting up the same numbers that he has in the past, but he was still a 3-win player this past year, a 3.1 F WAR. Yeah, the bat obviously took a bit of a hit, but he's still playing great defense. I wouldn't say he's washed up by any means. I mean, a 3.1 F4, that's pretty solid for the most part. You know, of course, we've seen better seasons, but I wouldn't call him washed up. I don't know. That's just me. You know, but I see what you're saying, though, Nick. I see what you're saying. You're not taking the future into consideration. Well, I think I am taking the future into consideration now, because if you think about it, when it comes to 2025, right? If you can put Arenado at third, Raffy at first base, and then you're able to maybe bring... Also, another factor here I forgot to mention. When it comes to Casas, when it comes to him, I just lost my page. But when it comes to Casas, it also depends, what are you getting back for him? That's another thing that I think comes into play here, too. I mean, what if you get back a very good package? What if you get back some good young pitching? Well, then, you know, you're saying here, I'm not taking the future into consideration. Well, how do we know? We don't even know what you would be getting back for him. What if you get back a pretty solid young guy like a Bubba Chandler? You know, maybe the Pirates want to take him. Bubba Chandler, come on down. I mean, that's a very good pitching prospect that you can get back, right? I just think at the end of the day, the way at least I'm trying to think, the way I'm trying to think about it, I'm trying to look at it from where the front office is thinking about it. I think with Raffy, if they think he can play first base, well then, and if you can add a good defensive third baseman, well, and if you're able to get something good for Casas in return, which I think you should, he has good value. I'll go over some trades here in just a second for Casas. And Nick, maybe I can change your mind. But again, I'm not really trying to change anyone's mind. I'm just looking at it from the front office point of view. I'm just trying to think the way they're thinking. With the front office, I just wonder if they think Raffy can be able to handle first base and if they can improve the infield defense at third. Then someone like Casas could be expendable at that point, right? Because they do need a right-handed bat. And I wonder if maybe they've done their homework on Arenado too. That's another thing to think about. You know, listen, I trust the Red Sox front office. I know a lot of people, whatever, they can say what you want about the spending and whatnot, but it's a pretty, in my opinion, it seems like a pretty good bunch. And if they look at someone like Arenado, and again, we don't even know if the Red Sox are fully invested in Arenado. We're just speculating here. Maybe they think he could end up being a solid player at Fenway Park, and it ends up giving them, a pretty good bat in the middle of the order, right? I would rather have Bregman. But again, I totally see where people would get annoyed about this. I do get that because there is a lot of potential. But again, I think you got to look at it from also the point of view is what do you get back? All right. So taking a look here, if you go over to good old baseball trade values, I use the value matcher, right? And these are just 1-for-1 swaps, right? Now, again, not all of these guys are going to be available, right? Francisco Alvarez, of course, no. Now, if I'm going down the list, I don't think Dylan Cease would be a guy you do. I don't see the Red Sox doing that for 1 year. That doesn't make sense. Now I know we're talking about Arenado here, but I mean, what if you did something for Correa? Probably not. There's a lot of money there. But if Correa is healthy over a full season, oof, that'd be a pretty huge pickup right there. Right in the middle he's right in his prime, too. Some other guys, right? I don't think Reed Detmers would be a guy. Now, Yohan Duran. He's got a few more seasons of control. Twins are looking to cut some payroll. Now, he's not going to cut as much payroll as Pablo Lopez or Correa, but, he is expected a raise this coming season. That could be a really good option at the back end of the bullpen for the next few years. That might seem a little weak, though. But again, these are just these are headliners that I'm talking about. All right, maybe you could throw in a couple more pieces, possibly. If I'm going down the list, I don't really see any of these. Kyle Harrison, maybe. The Giants, I feel like they could use some more power in their lineup. Could you get back someone like Kyle Harrison? I don't know. Maybe. If I'm going down, actually, you know what? I'm not even on the right thing here. Looking a little further, no one's really jumping on. I don't think you do Alec Boehm. Nick Lodolo, probably not. I don't know. Zach Gallen? Nah, I don't see that. You know, there's not really like a ton here. Again, I mentioned Kyle Harrison. Andres Munoz. Andres Munoz on the Mariners. That would be an electric arm to add to the back end of the bullpen. I mean, that's something, you know. Maybe if you did Munoz and maybe something else, possibly. I know a reliever might, but you got to remember, Munoz is a guy, this is a closer, man. This is one of the best relievers in the game. You know, there's not much, I think. Now, I did come up with some ideas. Right? I came up with this possibility. You know, maybe you could do something with the Pirates. Or I did mention Bubba Chandler earlier. Maybe you could do something with him. If not, maybe you could do something like Braxton Ashcraft, Colin Holderman. I put Henry Davis in here just to whatever. But, you know, maybe there could be something with the Pirates. I did, you know, the Twins. If you got back Yohan Duran, maybe you could also get back a pitching prospect like Charlie Soto. You know, the Angels, I came up with like kind of a whatever, I don't like this idea very much. I just plugged it in. You know, get back Taylor Ward, but also get back like a pitching prospect in Samuel Aldegary. Probably not. I did Casas for Kyle Harrison straight up. Casas for Munoz, possibly, you know. Now, there's opportunities out there, I think, to get back some good club-controlled guys that could be an impact player for the team moving forward, right? Could it be a lights out reliever at the back end of the bullpen? Could it be a young starting pitcher like Kyle Harrison, right? Or, you know, Nick, I see you in the chat again, Nick, you know, Carlos Correa, right? You know, if you're asking me who I'd rather have over Arenado or Correa, Correa all day. I mean, even with the injuries, I would much rather take back Carlos Correa. I wonder if you could do something there, you know? So I'm kind of going off on a whole bunch of different directions right now, but, you know, just kind of wrapping this up here. You know, again, I was told this a little while ago. Preferred destination for Arenado is the Red Sox. But again, I think it's just a matter of if they could move Yoshida, I think they would. But I think what this says, the fact that you're getting Casas in this report, I think this pretty much says they are having a very hard time trying to move him, right? I mean, go back to the report that we had with the Mariners, right? When they, you know, talking about Luis Castillo and, you know, they wanted Casas and the Red Sox said, okay, well, you got to take back Yoshida. The Red Sox were that desperate, if that report was true, to get rid of Yoshida, that they were willing to throw him in to make up for, you know, they were willing to throw Casas in to make up for the value of, or the underwater contract of Yoshida. If they're doing that, I have a very hard time seeing them moving Yoshida at this point. I think that was, but, you know, that's why I think Casas is popping up, you know? And that's why I think you've also seen Randall Grichuk pop up. You know, kind of when you start connecting the dots a little bit, that's what I think. I think Casas, simply put, I'm not saying I would prefer to trade him. I just think the Red Sox, they need to add a right-handed bat and they need to improve the defense. This is why they've been connected with Bregman. This is why they've been connected with Arenado. You are checking off 2 boxes by bringing in one of those guys. It's just the way it is. I mean, you need to improve the defense and you need a right-handed bat. You're not going to be able to move Yoshida, but Casas is definitely someone you can move. Not because I'm saying I want to move him. I would like to keep him. But if you have to make a move for the better of the team right now, I mean, what other option? You know, could you just go sign Bregman and then people say DFA Yoshida? Could you just DFA him? I mean, sure, but are you really going to DFA over $50 million? I don't think teams want to do that, especially when Yoshida can bring you something. You know, it's different. It's not like Pablo Sandoval where the guy's belt exploded, or Josh Hamilton where he was just lost, right? And he was going through some issues. Those were the huge DFAs. Yoshida he's not really lost. Like, he's still a guy that could be a productive at bat. He gets on base. He's not in that category. That's the only time when you DFA a guy with that much money. That's why Anthony Rendon is in that conversation right now. Because he's like, look how awful that's turned out to be. Yoshida is not in that category, in my opinion. All right. Nick, I see you also in the chat. Nick, you're making some good comments here in the chat. We should offload Wilyer. Here's the thing with Wilyer. I think Wilyer also is just a good player to have on your team. I think he brings a lot to the clubhouse. He gives you good defense out in right field. He gives you a good lefty bat. Still needs to work on hitting lefties. I think he's just a good player, right? But then you also think, right, you don't want to block guys. If you're talking about blocking guys. I saw someone in the chat saying Bregman, right? If you bring him in, well, then you're going to block Christian Campbell, Vaughn Grissom. Well, if you're, Wilyer Abreu, I mean, here's the thing. Like, you could move him right now, but, I mean, yes, I know Roman Anthony. You don't, maybe he's blocking Roman Anthony at this point, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket with Roman Anthony, even Christian Campbell. This is not MLB The Show. It's just not. This is real life, right? You are not going to be able to put all, Anthony, Christian Campbell, they would have to earn jobs out of spring training. You can't do that right now. It's just not realistic. Right? And honestly, if you're asking me, I would rather take my time with those guys. That's just my opinion. I'd rather not rush them. If they earn their spot, then cool. But you don't trade Wilyer Abreu right now and just say, here, Anthony, here, Roman, here's the keys. There you go. Right field's yours, right? I think he could use, it wouldn't hurt to get a little more time in AAA. Wouldn't hurt. I think Wilyer still brings a lot to the team. I think Wilyer Abreu, honestly. I mean, this is a guy, he was a 3 wins above replacement this past year. That is really good. It's not just the offense. He brings you very good defense out in a very demanding position, right field at Fenway Park. I don't know, man. Like, I see the thinking of moving Wilyer, but I don't know, man. Like, I just think with Casas, he's going to bring you back something, and then they probably think Rafi can handle the position. That's the way it is. And also, I'm going to connect some more dots here, too. We talked about the Alex Cora interview, right? What other thing Cora that he brought up in that interview that I thought was interesting? He said Vaughn Grissom deserves a mulligan. I find that interesting, right? That tells me that they really want to give him a shot to win second base. Because he had injuries this year. He got sick at one point. He lost a ton of weight, right? This is a guy they got back for Chris Sale. They, I think, see a lot in him, and I think they would like to give him a chance. The fact that Cora brought that up without even me asking, I think says a lot. So I wonder, now let's talk about Alex Bregman, right? Let's kind of tie into the Alex Bregman talk, because I think this is all connected, right? We did have this from Francis Romero. We had this from Ari Alexander. 3 teams have emerged as serious suitors for Alex Bregman. The Tigers, Red Sox, and Blue Jays have been described as very, very real. I think this is all connected. I think Bregman's market is Arenado's market is very dependent on Bregman's market. It's just a matter of how do I put this into words? I don't know. I don't know what the possibility is of the Red Sox getting him. I think he makes a ton of sense. A ton. When you're looking at so many different factors coming into play, right? Campbell, Grissom even, and if he's playing second base, that it still makes me think, even if they brought Bregman in to be the second baseman, I still think, a part of me at least, wonders if they would still try to move Casas. And that way you put Bregman at third, Raffy at first. And then that leaves the door open for Grissom or Campbell. You know? I don't know. I think with Bregman, the versatility is huge. But I just think with the Red Sox, it feels like to me they're hanging back right now. Like they're in the picture. They would like to have him. But I don't think they want to overextend themselves. I think because they know that Arenado's sitting right there. And I think with Bregman, they think, and I'm guessing, but they see where his market is a bit stagnant. They know the Tigers, at least as of right now, don't want to go beyond a certain point. The Red Sox, I think, they are not really biting into they're using their own leverage right now. They're sitting there saying, okay, the Tigers, they don't want to go a certain amount of years. The Blue Jays, does Bregman even want to go there? I guess there's been a report that Vlad and the Blue Jays could be meeting this coming week. Maybe they could hammer out an extension and maybe that could change his perspective on Toronto. But again, does he want to go to Toronto? I don't know. So I think the Red Sox right now, they're just playing the JD Martinez game. They're just waiting. But then again, I wonder if I think if the Red Sox, my opinion is the Red Sox, they've probably said to Bregman, hey, we'll do something in this range. This is kind of what we're thinking. If you want to come to Boston, we think you would do very well here. We would love to have you here. But these are the terms that we're looking for. And I think at a certain point, if it ends up just dragging out, because I think Arenado's sitting right there, and I think that eventually they're either, Bregman goes to them, or they just pivot and they just go to Arenado. I have a good feeling that they're going to get one of these guys. I don't know who. If you were to ask me, I feel like Detroit probably ponies up and they cave to the pressure a little bit and they end up giving him more years. And I think the Red Sox just turn to Arenado. I hope I'm wrong. I would rather have Bregman, to be honest, right? I know I'm kind of rambling and I know I'm kind of going in a whole bunch of different directions right now, but there's so many different things, right? You got Bregman, you got Arenado, you got Casas here, the pros and cons of trading Triston Casas. And I know everyone's going to get really grumpy about trading Triston Casas, but I try to look at it from a value point of view. And again, I know there's going to be a whole bunch of different opinions of, Red Sox, Robbie, he's a future Red Sox middle of the order guy. I don't know, but then I'll get back to the fact too. Why is he always coming up in trade rumors? Someone tell me that. Why is he always popping up? I don't know. I mean, why? Is there something we don't know about? Is there something, where they don't feel confident about him? I know they go out and say that, right? Oh no, this is a guy, middle of the order bat for us. Listen, this is GM speak. This is what these guys do. They posture. It's posturing. I think they believe that he is, but they're also, I think, playing the leverage game at the same time. They're just speaking a fact. They think he can be a middle of the order bat. I don't think they're just saying, I don't think they're lying, but I'm just saying that I think they feel both ways, that if you end up having Casas, you're still good. But if you could move him, you got to keep the leverage up, right? And if you end up moving him and you get back a good return, right? You don't want to make it known that you're trying to move the guy, because then you're going to box yourself into a corner and then you're not going to get anything for him, right? You'll get like a pretty weak return. That's kind of what happened with the Yankees and the Marlins, right? The Yankees, they traded for Jazz Chisholm. And remember, they got back a package where people were like, huh? Because the Marlins were pretty kind of backed into a corner there, right? They're hearing all these rumors that they were looking to move him, and there wasn't really a market for him. There was a couple of teams that could have done something, but the Yankees played it perfectly, and they really didn't have to give up all that much for him. I think the Red Sox, they're trying not to fall into that little trap of boxing themselves into a corner, and then, if the right-handed bat you're wanting is Arenado or Bregman, and and trading Casas is the way to do it, because I don't think Yoshida is. realistically, not my opinion. I just think that's what it is. You know? I don't know, man. I just think the Red Sox, they're playing the leverage game. They're doing a lot of different things right now. And I think they're just trying to keep their best position possible. All right. They need a right-handed bat. I'm so tired of all of the people out there saying, oh, it's okay. We can go get Randall Grichuk. We can go get a platoon bat. No. Stop it. No. You don't want a platoon bat. You already have Refsnyder and Romy. You don't need another platoon bat. You need a right-handed hitter that's going to be able to handle the everyday lineup, that can handle both right-handed and left-handed pitching. That's what you want. No, you don't want to do that. Don't do that, because then you're going to start really getting into issues when it comes to late in games, when teams are using their bullpen strategically. And you don't want a platoon bat. You need a right-handed hitter. You need a guy that's going to be able to be in the lineup every day, right? That's why Bregman, to me, makes a ton of sense. Or maybe even Correa, if that ends up being an option. That's what you want. Casey, am I going to be at Fenway Fest? I'll be honest, I would love to. I really would. I would love to go, but I'm still waiting to see if I could get some credentials. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Right? We're kind of running short on time here. Haven't really got an answer back. I would love to go. I would love to, but we'll see. Everyone, let's move on here. I know I just rambled a lot there. That was a lot. I feel like maybe even I probably sounded pretty confusing at times. I hope I explained all of that in the best way. I know I kind of jumped around. Hopefully you could follow along with me. Moving on, let's talk about a couple other quick things. We got Roki Sasaki. Now, we got this report from the Boston Globe. I believe this was Peter Abraham saying that the other day, basically, the Red Sox seem to be out of the mix, right? Craig Breslow wasn't as chatty last week after learning the Sox were out of the mix, right? Because there were some teams that were brought up that have gotten meetings, but the Red Sox haven't gotten a meeting yet. So there kind of seems to be this belief that the Red Sox are out of the mix. However, Rob Bradford, good old Bradfo, he came out and he put this yesterday, per source. The Red Sox have not been told they are out of the Roki Sasaki mix. So there it is. We were given a report at one point. We were given a report that there could be other meetings after this initial bunch. So do I think Sasaki's going to come to Boston? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's going to come down to the Dodgers, the Padres. That's what I think. I think it's just going to be those two. We'll see. I would love Sasaki, though. However, there was also one little update about Roki, and that's he is going to not sign, I believe what was it, January 15th, that he could sign a little after that because teams, it gives them an opportunity to try and get some more international signing money. We'll see how that ends up working out. But I would say for Sasaki, you're probably going to see something in the next couple of weeks. That's what I think. Now, we have the Red Sox 6-man rotation idea. This is coming from Jen McCaffrey of The Athletic, saying that the Red Sox are considering deploying a 6-man rotation. Here's the thing. I could maybe see this at times. I don't think this is a actual thing that's going to be a full-time thing. I think this could be a thing that pops up sometimes during the season to kind of manage workloads, to manage fatigue, whatever it may be. A guy needs to skip a star. I think they have just a lot of depth at this point. That's what I think. I mean, you got Walker Buehler, who's going to be upping his workload this coming year. Lucas Giolito's coming back from elbow surgery. Garrett Crochet, I really wouldn't worry about him. Patrick Sandoval is going to be coming back in the second half. I don't think it's going to be a full-time thing. I think it could end up just it's something that it's a luxury that they have. They have a lot of depth here. And I think in the end, it's just going to work itself out. I don't think there's going to be any idea of a 6-man. I could see it just coming up at times. Personally, that's what I think. To me, I've always been a 5-man guy. That's just how it is with me. Maybe we're going into a new wave of thinking here, but you hear a lot of guys all the time. I think even Lucas Giolito said at one point that he thinks 5-man is perfect, right? So I wouldn't buy into the fact that it's going to be a full-time thing. I think it's just going to be something they can use to their advantage to manage depth, right? Could maybe someone like Cutter Crawford, depending on how he's performing, could he move to the bullpen at one point? Could you see Patrick Sandoval in the bullpen at some point? Who knows? I think it's just going to work itself out. We'll see. But everyone, again, I know I kind of really jumped around there in the beginning. We got hit with this article, so I'm kind of thinking on the fly as I'm going. Again, I want to make it known. I'm not, sitting here and saying, we need to trade Triston Casas. That's not what I'm saying. I'm looking at it the way I always think about from the Red Sox, and they say this all the time. It almost feels like it's just flying over our heads. They're just trying to put the best team possible. The best team possible. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Casas is a big bat. He makes your team better. They're trying to put together the best overall team. If Casas can bring you something back that ends up making your team better in other ways, and you have a guy like Rafi, if they think he could handle first base, then there's that, right? And then you get one of the best third basemen of all time, or Alex Bregman. I don't know. To me, I think if you had a team, if you had a lineup, because again, you need balance in this lineup. You do. Casas would not be the guy I move, but if you had to, I think if you brought in Arenado or Bregman, and if Casas ended up having to get moved, I still think your whole team gets better because you are improving the defense. Yes, you're taking a slight hit with the bat. Who knows? Maybe it could end up being a big hit. Who knows? I'm going off the projected numbers right now. 28 home runs for Triston Casas. I think he's very capable of at least 30 over a full season. So you could end up taking a hit there. Let's go in the middle. Not a slight hit, not a big hit. Let's just say a hit. Casas, you take him out. Put in someone like Arenado. If you could get him, 20, 25 home runs, Fenway Park, I think he would do a lot better. Or put Bregman in there. Doubles machine, 20, 25 homers. You're getting good defense. You got to remember, it's both sides of the ball. It's not just the lineup. It's not just offense. First base is a low-value position. Rafael Devers has statistically not been a good third baseman. Sure, maybe some improvements. But if you want to hide Rafi defensively, first base would be the option here because Yoshida is probably not going to be able to be moved. Because I don't see a team out there. I mean, maybe there's a couple, but I just don't know if they would be willing to take on money, even if the Red Sox paid some of it. You got to think, the Red Sox, all the things that we say about Yoshida, why we don't want him, the other teams are thinking that too. Well, if you don't want him for these reasons, why would we want him? So Yoshida, I feel like, is probably not going to get moved. I think Casas is, when you're looking at value, he brings you back a good return. I would like to keep him, but I'm just speaking realistically. I know I'm going to make people grumpy with what I'm saying, and I don't know. I'm not saying I want to trade him. Anyway, everyone, I'm going to wrap this up. I've rambled long enough. Hopefully we can have some more to chew into tomorrow. That would be great. But everyone, if you can on the way out, hit that like button for me. If you are new, think about subscribing. We are growing here at Fenway Faithful. It's been a great time doing this podcast this off season. I mean, we just had Alex freaking Cora on here. That is just amazing. Incredible. But everyone, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and we will be live here tomorrow if there is anything else to talk about then. So until then, I'll talk to you next time.